In the tapestry of life, where every thread holds a story, America in black and white emerges as a haven for the voices echoing through the heart of our communities. In this podcast, we wade through the rivers of our collective experiences, celebrating the vibrant hues of change brought forth by the whispers of hope and the roars of action. It's more than just a conversation. It's a journey into the heart of our society, illuminated by the light of those daring to dream and do. Join us, and let your voice be the melody that guides us toward a dawn where every color finds its place in the masterpiece of our shared destiny. Together, let's paint a future brimming with the positives that dwell in our minds and the actions that shape our world.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we are coloring conversations on the canvas of America. Tonight, our special guest is Mr. Christopher S. Bryson. Christopher S. Bryson turned his lived experience into a lifelong commitment to rehabilitation, education, and public service. Once a troubled youth, Bryson found purpose in helping others navigate the same obstacles he once faced and built a career rooted in redemption and transformation. His journey began inside the correctional system, where he joined the Prisoners Overcoming Obstacles Creating Hope, which is the Pooch program, training service dogs for autistic children and disabled veterans. He later became certified by the Office of Correctional Education as a peer literacy mentor, a certified domestic violence specialist intern, and a trauma informed facilitator with the Guiding Rage into Power GRIP Training Institute. Today, Bryson serves as CEO of Suitable Solutions Programs, that's SSP, a social impact organization developing correct correspondence and in-person programs for justice-involved individuals preparing for parole and reentry. He also works as a counselor within the California Department of Corrections and Rehab, CDCR, and California Correctional Health Care Services, CCHCS, at San Quentin Rehab Center. SQRC, providing behavioral health interventions to individuals with co-occurring disorders. Beyond clinical work, Bryson is director of development for Every Life Deserves Assistance, leading trauma-informed workforce and reentry expansion strategies. He also serves as program coordinator and instructor with the Prison Education Project and Reintegration Academy at UC Davis and Sacramento State, supporting higher education success for justice impacted students. Bryson holds a Bachelor of Science in Psychology, is certified in substance use disorder counseling, and is a Medi-Cal certified peer support specialist. He sits on the board of directors for Davis Vanguard Incorporated and previously served as a life coach for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, helping system impacted individuals rebuild their lives through mentorship, education, and purpose. Bryson's career reflects a deep belief that rehabilitation, education, and accountability are just ideals, that they're pathways to redemption and community transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Christopher S. Bryson. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir. How are you? Thank you for that. That was a nice introduction. Thank you.
Yes, you're very much so welcome. Is there anything you'd like to add to your bio before we get into the show?
Now I feel like there's too much in there, so yeah, no, that covered it.
Okay. Well, I'd like to start the show where we talk a little bit about your personal journey and transformation. Take us back and tell us what was life like before the shift.
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I've asked myself that question many times. I think life before the shift really wasn't much of a life at all. I found myself kind of drifting in and out of different versions of who I thought I was supposed to be, and a lot of that was based on the need for acceptance, the fact that I didn't feel like I fit into certain demographics, and with certain peers. I grew up in a affluent area, but my family was not wealthy, and so I found myself surrounded by peers that had all these material possessions that I didn't have, and that influenced me. I was also raised by a single mother. My identity kind of was shaped by what I didn't have versus or what I felt I wasn't versus what I believed that I was or could be. And so yeah, so kind of before that shift, I would say that I wasn't living much of a life at all because of that.
So, what was the turning point that led you toward rehab and purpose?
I think it was my ability to participate in programs and activities that put me in positions of being in service to others. I really started to recognize that my identity could be based on me. Um, Ironically, if I didn't focus only on myself and what I was lacking, and so that sort of started a path of me stepping outside of myself to see who.
Okay. So, I just thinking, you were saying that the people that you were around and how they had things that you didn't have. So with that being said, I mean, like, was that a negative impact on you, or was that just one of those things that made you feel like, these are some things that you wanted to have and you wanted to be like everybody else?
That's a really interesting way to put it. I think I made it negative by the way I internalized it. I sort of attributed the way that I saw them to the things that they had. So early on, I had primarily Caucasian friends who had money, and so I sort of turned that into the ideal version of what I thought I should be. I thought I should not be dark and I should not be, had to wear the same shoes every day to school. I really turned it into a negative self-image, when in actuality, I was popular and I did have friends, but I viewed myself as less than, and sort of dismissed and minimized the way that I was seen by my peers.
Mm. So, how did the Pooch program shape your early sense of service?
The push program was an opportunity for me to make amends in a direct way. And every time I would be training a new service animal, I would be thinking to myself how amazing it is that the dog that I'm working with will be helping improve someone else's life, someone that I've never met. And so for me, every step that I took, with the dog, walking around the yard and teaching it new skills, I just sort of had that picture in my mind of that dog improving the quality of someone else's life. And so it was a really impactful thing for me to be able to do that.
So, in doing service, especially for those that you did not know, but then just giving back, can you tell us, is that one of the things that you've always had within you, or was there just a moment, from early life that just put you into this frame?
Yes. I do believe that I started out that way. I went to private Catholic school, all the way through almost to college, through high school. Um, Choir boy, altar server, all of that. And then once I started to kind of base my identity outside of that and have that negative self image, I became very selfish. I became very self centered. So I didn't really how I could help them or how I'm. And it wasn't until my incarceration that I sort of had the opportunity and the time to self reflect, participate in groups and programs that helped me to kind of deconstruct all of that and then recognize that the most important thing that I could do is be authentic to who I am. and that is somebody who is generally can people and helping the community.
Right. Um, what did training service dogs teach you about healing and responsibility?
It definitely taught me that healing was possible. A lot of the participants in that program had a sort of perspective that we were not worth healing, we were not worth saving because we were incarcerated. And so being able to participate in that program, it made us feel valued, I suppose, in a way that we didn't feel that we. So I think that kind of shift in being seen helped me to see myself. And I feel like I can say the same for others in that program, definitely.
So, how did your time inside prepare you for work you do now?
Many different ways. I am very familiar with the carceral setting. And so, in the various capacities of my work now, not only do I understand the administrative processes of how things work, but I also understand the level of impact that is possible because I have experienced it. I am a product of uh, the community reaching back in to help the individuals that are inside. And so now on the outside, I'm able to sort of take that firsthand experience and apply it directly to the work that I do. So it gives me a lens to look through that I think most people that are in positions like mine don't have that sort of added perspective of I know exactly what it's like to be where these men and women are, and so I can put that extra energy into helping them that maybe the average person in my position does not have.
Oh, wow. So is it like when you see these people when you're doing the service that you're doing that you're giving back? Um, does it give you like the reminders of when you were a part of this system to now you're doing this to help to make it much better? Do you ever think in those terms?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I believe that there is a lot of intersectionality between, the sort of systemic barriers that I'm currently working to help mitigate, and the way that I was affected by them. And so I'm constantly aware when whether it's in a board meeting or whether it's, interacting directly with individuals that are incarcerated, I'm aware that not everyone has that perspective, that not everyone understands how much generational trauma, how much systemic racism, how much things like that play a part in where people end up in the course of their lives. And so, yeah, I'm always very aware of how my story could have ended differently.
What does redemption mean to you personally?
Redemption to me means hope. It means that you have the ability to think about yourself in a way that gives you value, and that's something that I didn't have when I first became incarcerated. I did not think that I would ever walk out of a prison, let alone be walking back into a prison as an employee. And so, yeah, so redemption for me is the power of hope, but also the power of narrative and being able to sort of shift your story and make it the way you want it to end.
Wow. So, how do you speak to those who feel stuck in their past?
Hmm. I definitely begin by speaking from a place of safety. I want them to feel safe to express their past in the way that's most authentic to them. A lot of the work I do involves individuals who still struggle with issues of guilt and shame around, their current situation and most importantly their past. And so I try to begin with that in mind, and recognize that everyone has to have the authenticity or the autonomy rather to make the journey at their own pace. And so I tell them that no matter where they are, they can start. That's sort of the main perspective that I try to share with them. That even if it's just a small change and a small shift, that is the path that you can begin on.
Mm. So, what role did educational play in your transfer in your transformation?
Education played a huge part. As I mentioned, I started out my life in private Catholic school and was a good student before I turned down that negative road. And so during my incarceration, I'm part of through CDCR to obtain a bachelor's degree through California State University. And so having that opportunity gave me a sense of purpose, in addition to the work that I was doing in restorative justice and training service dogs and making amends in that way. And so my education really gave me a foundation for when I got out to be able to build on the skills that I had already kind of acquired. And then it presented me with different opportunities to give back as well. So yeah, education was foundational to my rehabilitative success.
So, what was the hardest part of rebuilding your life?
I think the hardest part of rebuilding my life was probably just maintaining that same perspective. And I said this to the board of parole hearings when I met with them, and they decided that I could be released. They asked me sort of the same thing. What do you envision will be a challenge that you'll face if we were to let you go? And I said, not comparing myself to other people. I realized that that was sort of the foundation of where I took that negative turn. I was so focused on, am I as good as other people, I lost sight of who I was and who I wanted to be. And I think that that was probably the toughest part. When you kind of re-enter society, there's some help, some support, but there's no way to get back the time that you lost. And it can be very difficult to not compare your life to your neighbor and say, well, he has these material things, or he has this level of achievement in his career, and I am starting from where I am. And so, yeah, that was probably, it was difficult. It wasn't extremely difficult because I had practiced and prepared for it, but it was something that I had to be constantly mindful of when I was, sort of in that process of.
So, as people are looking and watching this show right now, especially some of those people that may have either started through a situation such as yours or have come out of a situation like yours, what are some of the things that you want them to know that they can do to continue to build their life?
I'd like them to know that they can do everything that they believe that they're capable of. And what I mean by that is the ability to achieve something is only based on the level of effort that you're willing to put into it. And I think once that level of effort is established, that's when opportunities come. A lot of the people, when I was still incarcerated, would say, "Man, you're so lucky. You get all these opportunities. You're in all these groups and these programs, and you're meeting with the warden, and you're doing all these things. You're just so lucky. I don't have that opportunity." And I used to say to them, it's not really about luck, it's about work. I found the harder I worked, the luckier I got. And I think that that's just sort of the law of attraction. What you put out is what you get back. And so I would say to those individuals, stay positive, stay focused, and continue to set new goals. Anytime I would complete one program, it would be very easy for me to sit back and say, well, I've done it. But I always took that and built upon it. So I would say, yeah, continue to build, continue to set new goals, and believe in yourself and in your redemption story.
So, what keeps you grounded today?
My family definitely keeps me grounded. My work keeps me grounded, especially the restorative justice aspects of it keep me grounded. I definitely do a lot of exercising, but I'm at work now. I work at San Quentin in California, which is, as you can maybe see, on the beach. So yeah, nature, just being out and alive and free. All of those things are things that keep me grounded, definitely.
So, what's your motivation?
My motivation is to help others, and I think that that motivation is something that really can only come from within. I knew a lot of individuals that were forced to be in different programs, either by the board of parole hearings or by their correctional counselor, and they didn't really, it didn't really stick the same way. And so I think the reason that rehabilitation worked for me is because it's something that I wanted for me. I wanted to be different. I asked myself one morning while I was incarcerated, is this how I want to be remembered? If I were to die inside of these prison walls, would I only want to be remembered for being a prisoner? And I realized that I didn't. And so that motivation sort of carried me through every single day while I was in there. And it still does moving forward to be able to help others recognize that they can change their story no matter where they are.
Mm. So let's move over to your entrepreneurship and your program development. Tell us about Suitable Solutions programs and what inspired its creation.
Yes. Suitable solutions programs began after I was found suitable for the Board of Parole hearings. And so I went to the hearing. It was my first time going, and everyone had kind of told me that, they never let anybody go the first time they appear before the Board of Commissioners. And so when I went and I was successful, I came back and everybody wanted to know how I did it. Everyone said, well, how did what did you do? What did you tell them? And so it kind of started with one person. I was helping one person, and then he wanted to bring his roommate, and then it ended up with 5 and 10 and 20, 30. I had so many people that wanted help. So I was able to use the training and the resources that I had as a peer mentor and as a literacy mentor to be able to put together a curriculum. I felt like it would just be easier if everyone just wrote down the things they needed help with, and then I could take time and write feedback and return it to them. And so it kind of started with that. I ended up having groups inside the prison of about 30 people a week. And I with them, and we would talk about rehabilitation, talk about, change and things like that. When people had completed the packets that I had created, they asked me for a certificate. And I told them that I couldn't give them a certificate. I was incarcerated just like them. Like, I didn't have certificates. But having gone through that process, I knew the value that a certificate can bring to someone's hearing. When the Board of Commissioners is reviewing somebody for parole, one of the things that they look for is how many programs have you completed? What work have you done? And so I recognized that it was something that was important to a lot of people. And so I established an LLC while I was still incarcerated with the help of my mother. And that's where Suitable Solutions programs began. That's why I came up with the name, that it is more than just being found suitable for release, but it's living a lifestyle that is suitable for society. And so I started the LLC, and I was able to give legitimate certificates to the individuals who had completed the programs while I was still inside. And then upon my release, it just kind of continued to grow. We started getting letters and requests for curriculum throughout the state and in other states. So it's been a really interesting thing because I didn't plan on starting a business in that way. I really only was trying to help one person, and then the need just became apparent that there were so many people that needed help. That's kind of how it all started.
So, so what part in your creating this were you able to put some innovation into this?
I think the innovation, honestly, the innovation part kind of started while I was still incarcerated because I only had access to my CDCR, California issued laptop that I had been given for school. So I couldn't create anything that was flashy or special. It was just text and a couple clip art images. But once I was released, I had access to the internet and access to things and resources that I didn't have before. So I was able to really expand the curriculum, make it more engaging, and then also partner with different community organizations and offer different services than just the curriculum, different reentry services and things like that. So I think the innovation, I would say the most innovative part was just being able to create it, from within the prison, and not having those resources that, most people have out here, Chat GPT, or I didn't have any of that.
Wow. What gaps in reentry support were you trying to fill?
I was definitely trying to fill the gaps in life skills. I think that that's probably one of the more foundational needs that people have in the process of reentry, because it's been so long in most cases that individuals have had any opportunity to interact in a non-controlled environment, and so they're not really used to social skills, how to present themselves in an interview, for example, or how to find resources on their own. Everything is sort of given to you in prison, and so I feel like that's one of the bigger gaps. Another one is housing. We're kind of trying to work on different opportunities to provide reentry housing services to people other than, now we provide linkages, but we in the future we anticipate being able to have our own transitional housing programs. So I would say housing and life skills are the biggest. Had you asked me maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I would have said education, but there's been a really big push, especially in California, for higher education access in prisons. So I feel like that gap is shrinking a little bit. But yeah, the life skills and just the general ability uh, um, to be self-actualizing, I think, is one of the biggest gaps.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mhm.
So how do you design programs that meet people where they are?
That goes back to my peer literacy mentor training. I had a lot of practice working with individuals when I was teaching ABE, adult basic education classes, and so in creating the programs that I create today, I try to make them understandable, relatable. I try to use language that doesn't isolate or prevent somebody from participating and engaging and getting something out of the material for themselves. I try not to over explain, and I definitely try to use cultural competency. I try to recognize that what's different, things are different for different people. And so, what may be understood in one way by one target population may be understood in a completely different way by another. And so, I try to make it as general as I can, but still make it specific to whatever the concept is that I'm trying to get them to understand in the program.
So let's just say, at this point where you're out and you're doing the things that you're doing right now, right?
Mhm.
Can you tell us how were you able to make these two worlds come together and just burst with great light? How were you able to do that? Because that's being very, very special. And
Mm.
tell us, how did you do that?
I appreciate that. Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it that way. If I had to look back, I would say it started while I was still inside. I kind of just sort of got in the habit of always picturing myself where I wanted to be, rather than focusing on where I was. And so for me, it was just doing the same thing that I had been doing inside, except now I'm going home at the end of the day. And so I really kind of tried to make prison too small. I tried to make it so that I had done every single thing possible while inside. And so one of the things I said to the parole board is, not only do I appreciate my time in prison, but I feel like I've expanded beyond what's available here in terms of resources. And so when I said that to them, one of the commissioners kind of looked at me and he said, "Hey, that's a good point. You've done every program. You've done everything that we could have asked you to do." And so that was when I asked them for the opportunity to be able to return to society and give back and sort of continue to grow. So yeah, I never really thought about it in a direct way of sort of merging those worlds, but I guess it kind of just happened organically that I just turned my world on the inside into the version of what I wanted it to look like on the outside.
So, how much of your work, or how much of the things that you do, programs and everything, how much of it is emotional intelligence?
I would argue that emotional intelligence kind of underlies everything, whether it's a program that's talking about criminal thinking or relapse prevention or domestic violence. All of those sort of have this underlying theme of emotional intelligence, of self awareness and understanding the feelings of others. And I feel like that's probably the core component of what leads people into incarceration. The other being, systemic and structural barriers. But as far as emotional intelligence, is one of the main things that I talk about, especially in my work now as a counselor. I always start off talking to my patients about identity, and recognizing that your unhappiness, your anger, or however your whatever method you choose to express your unhappiness, comes from your identity. It comes from that sort of cognitive dissonance between you see yourself and how you think the world sees you. And then I guess a triad part of that is how you see the world. And so, yeah, emotional intelligence is key to rehabilitation, I think.
So, what's the difference between correspondence and in-person programming?
Sure. Yeah. Correspondence programs are completed through the mail. So individuals will receive the curriculum. They'll go over it. They'll answer the questions. They'll read the text, and then they're able to. They have access to the tablets, and so they're able to reach out and ask us questions if they have questions about any of the material. But it's self-paced, and they're able to take their time and kind of internalize all of the different components of the curriculum, versus the in-person program, where it's a group of men, anywhere from 12 to 25 or 30, and they get together inside the prison and they go over the material together. So it's a class setting, and they'll have a facilitator who kind of goes over things with them and just facilitates the discussion of the topics in depth, and tries to get everyone to contribute and participate in a way that helps them grow. So yeah, they're similar in the material, but the delivery is much different, and I feel much more impactful in person.
What's one success story that reminds you why you do this work?
Oh, that is a really good question. I I think we had kind of talked about Nelson Mandela, and his ability to sort of overcome the adversity that he faced and still have the frame of mind of being of service. My grandfather is another really good example. He worked with Nelson Mandela in South Africa, and he is someone that I look up to and respect very much. He was born. He'll be 90 on November 11th. So he was born a long time ago in Louisiana. He was the son of a sharecropper. Wasn't allowed to learn how to read. Was able to work his way up to become the first Black vice president of Duke University. He was a San Francisco police detective. He just retired as a professor at Stanford with his PhD in psychology and DEI. Yeah, he's done so many amazing things. I feel like that is kind of the definition of success to me. Is for someone to be able to come from the most humble beginnings and then still maintain that identity that I lacked when I was younger. To not compare himself to other people and say, "Well, this is just where I'm supposed to be, and this is where I have to stay." He was able to see beyond that, and then develop an entire life of service and education. So
So, how do you measure impact in reentry work?
I think there are two ways you can measure it. I would say one is just by the statistics and the deliverables, the numbers. Are you able to say that your program or your services are reducing recidivism? They are providing housing. They're providing support to individuals by the numbers when they come home from incarceration. But then I think the other way you can measure it is the families in the community. Is the community a better place because of your programs and your services? And are you able to provide those in a way that doesn't have a negative influence on the economy and things like that? So, yeah, I think that there are a couple different ways you can measure impact. A third, I suppose, would be the success stories, like you mentioned. Are there people or my life was saved because of the support I received from this program? So reentry work has a personal place in my heart, but I also feel like it's important just for community in general because it creates opportunities that individuals who don't have the resources on their own can use to improve their lives.
So, what challenges do justice involved entrepreneurs face?
I would say the biggest challenge is probably lack of direct funding sources. There are some grants out there for different programs and things like that. A lot of it is nonprofit work, and in nonprofit work, you kind of have to already be doing whatever the thing is that you need funding for in order to show that you need the funding. So that can be expensive and that can be difficult. I would say another would just be um, not having the track record. Some other entrepreneurs are able to say, well, this is our family's business, or this business has been around for 10, 20, 30 years. So as an incarcerated entrepreneur, I don't have that ability. I can point to the story that I just gave you about how I started the company, but I couldn't say what that it's been around for 10 or 20 or 30 years. Um, so yeah, but I don't really view those as just challenges. I view them also as opportunities. That's what makes my company and companies like mine unique. That we do have that added perspective, and I feel like that added perspective gives us an increased ability to make the impact uh, that I was mentioning a second ago.
So, so tell us this because actually, this was something that I missed that I wanted to ask. When you're doing your program, so you're putting together the curriculum, one, are you the writer of that curriculum? And two, what are some of the things that you put into this curriculum, and what are you expecting to get from the people that are doing the courses?
Yes. Yeah. So it started off, it was just me. Now, thankfully, I have a team of people who are able to contribute different levels of expertise that I didn't have. I felt like I was definitely an expert when it came to the prison perspective of things. And my degree was in psychology, so I have an understanding of that. But as far as clinical work, I hadn't started doing that yet. And so, yeah, being able to sort of weave all of those parts together, I think makes our programs really strong. What I hope that the participants get out of it is not just understanding of the things, the places where they went wrong, but also use the tool in their lives, change the way they think about themselves. I hope that they come away from it feeling empowered to take action.
Okay. Something kind of like went wrong with your internet there, because you kind of like froze a little bit,
Oh,
then
sorry.
you came back. um,
Can I say it one more time?
how do you? No, that's okay. Um, how do you balance clinical work with organizational leadership?
Time management is definitely the key for doing that. Clinical work takes a lot of emotional energy, and organizational leadership really is just about maintaining schedules and sort of planning ahead. And so, yeah, so time management is probably my secret weapon when it comes to balancing those two.
What's your approach to trauma informed entrepreneurship?
I believe it's very important, especially because of the type of work that I do. It's my belief that every single person that I help or that I work with comes from a place of trauma. Their prison environment itself is traumatic, but even before getting to that, as I kind of mentioned earlier, that the generational trauma that's typically found in the participants and in incarcerated persons. Yeah, that trauma takes a lot of self awareness to through and then move on from. And so I think, yeah, having a trauma informed approach is very important in the work that I do.
What does sustainable reentry look like in your vision?
Sustainable reentry looks like, I guess, the adage "each one teach one," where we're able to take someone who has been there, knows exactly how they got out of and then is able to go back and help someone else. And whether they're able to go back directly inside or just being a productive member of society, I think that kind of all helps to shift that narrative that, lock them up and throw away the key kind of perspective. So I think that that's probably the most sustainable way that I describe, if each person who gets out is able to also be productive in terms of the choices that they make, and the way that they contribute to society. I would say that that's the goal.
Let's move over to your life coaching and behavioral health.
Okay.
What drew you to become a life coach with ARC?
I was actually product of ARC. So ARC came to the prison that I was housed in. I was a graduate of the program. I was asked to speak at the graduation, and one of the things that I said was a favorite quote of mine, by Toni Morrison, and she said that the function of freedom is to free someone else. And I felt like the life coaches that came into my prison, and helped me embody that. And so when I was released and I was approached by them with the opportunity to do what they do, I didn't even hesitate. I felt like anytime I get an opportunity to a Toni Morrison quote, I'm going to take it. So yeah, that was really a memorable experience for me for sure, because having that impact felt by me and then being able to make that impact on other people's lives is a powerful thing.
So, when you think about how things started for you, and you see now that you are now life coaching, what are some of the things that you think about when you reflect on that situation?
Oh man, yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing to think that redemption is real, especially when you used to believe that it was not. Um, More importantly, especially when you used to think it was only for some. Maybe I used because of maybe the color of circumstances that I grew up in, that I didn't deserve it. So to be able to have earned it and now be able to go back and inspire others to achieve the same, yeah, it's an amazing thing that I was always mindful of. Definitely.
How do you build trust with system impacted individuals?
Usually, if I tell them that I am also system impacted, that works pretty well. Um, but in the situations where I do not do that, it's usually just by active listening, empathy, and active listening. I try to make them feel heard and valued. One of the things that struck me the most, the first time that I was able to go back inside and work, was they have a process called count, where they come around and they make everyone stand up in the group and then say their CDCR number. Um, that was the first time that I did not have to do as a participant in groups. I used to have to stand up and say my CDCR number after the officer left the room, to remind everyone, you guys are more than a number. You guys are people. You guys are humans. You guys deserve to be valued and seen. And so, yeah, so I try to listen to them and connect with them in the same way that I used to wish that someone would listen to me and connect with me.
What's your philosophy on mentorship and accountability?
I think mentorship and accountability go hand in hand. I don't think you can be a successful mentor unless you take accountability yourself. And I don't think that you can inspire accountability without modeling it. And so one of the things that I try to do with any of the guys that I work with is not just tell them that they can do it, but help them to express why they should. Why do you want to do the thing that you're saying that you want to do, or the thing that you want to change in your life? So I try to elicit that change talk from them as a mentor, and then empower them throughout the change process. So I think, yeah, being able to remain accountable myself and hold myself accountable to them is what makes it a successful mentorship.
How do you approach behavioral health in correctional settings?
Well, I think the first thing that I do is recognize that everyone deserves it. I think based on my past experience, a lot of the times that's overlooked. There's more of a focus on the punitive aspects of incarceration, and I think that my approach is help the person to understand that they are not the problem, that the way that they think is the problem. The root of the behavior is not the behavior itself. The problem with the behavior is not at the surface, it's underneath. And so my approach is to kind of get them to talk about who they were, who did they think that they were, why did they make the choices that they made, and then sort of get them to understand that they are capable of changing their behavior and changing their perspective.
So, do you do like one-on-one sessions with a lot of your people to where you get to learn some things like thinking patterns, like a behavior situation with these individuals, or just what they're like in
Yes.
general?
And it's one of the things that I enjoy most, because when you get to know someone on that level, on a one-on-one level, and you can see those patterns, it makes it that much more rewarding when you see those patterns shift. So when I talk to someone in the beginning and they say, I'm not never going to change. I just want to get out of here. I don't really care about changing while I'm in here. And then after working with them for an extended period of time, they come back to me and they say, oh yeah, I've been working on this and this worked and that worked. And I can't wait to get out so I can do this. So I think that that's probably the biggest part of it is seeing them change and their future thinking. They're more future oriented, and they're not just saying, "I want to get out." They're saying, "I want to get out because I want to achieve this and I want to achieve that." So yeah, so I think that that's very rewarding. Absolutely.
So, do you ever have any of the uh, people that have just come back out into society, or any of them working with you at this point?
Yes, yeah. Actually, I recently sat in on a court hearing to advocate for the resentencing of someone who I trained service dogs with, and it was a surreal experience to be, in the same vein as correctional officers and lawyers and people that used to control my destiny and my fate, and be speaking on behalf of someone else, advocating for him to be released. And so, well, yeah, so he was a graduate of our programs. And so now he's working in Sacramento, and he's contributing to different curriculum development. He is a former gang member. So we're working on developing a program for development. So he's contributed a lot to the development of that. But it's just an amazing thing to see someone that you knew inside have witnessed their change, have contributed to their change, have contributed to them getting released, and then now, you know, for them back. It's yeah, it's an amazing thing.
So, what does it mean to treat co-occurring disorders inside prison walls?
Yeah, a co-occurring disorder is a behavioral health issue and a substance use disorder issue. So it can be mental health, behavioral health, and then substance use combined. And it means a lot. A lot of the guys in here are hesitant or ambivalent to addressing either one or both of those. And so it can be challenging when you're trying to get someone to recognize that there's intersectionality between the two, that that your substance use can worsen your mental health condition, or can impair your ability, your behaviors. And so yeah, so I try to be very mindful of that whenever I'm working with individuals that have co-occurring disorder, that has the impact that one is having on the other. But if I can get them to recognize that, and I can get them to accept, that's something that they have the ability to change and be more aware of, it's definitely a good thing.
How do you navigate the emotional toll of this work? Because I know it's got to be a lot.
Yeah, I literally came out from work to this. It's I would just say gratitude. You know, anytime I'm able to walk out of the prison, I just remind myself of the days when I used to sit on my bunk and never thought I would walk out of the prison. So even if I'm emotionally drained from doing one-on-one sessions or doing group sessions or talking with people all day, I feel like I get a sort of emotional recharge the minute I step through the gate and and come back out here. So yeah, it can be challenging. But yeah, it's I would say gratitude. I'm just grateful for the opportunity.
Or what's one breakthrough moment you've witnessed in counseling?
I started out a group last very first day. One of the participants told me, "Don't ask me any questions. I'm not going to say anything. I'm just here because they told me I had to be here. I don't want to. I don't want to change. There's nothing wrong with me." And so now, fast forward 2 weeks later, he's the first one that's raising his hand. He's asking for resources that he can use when he gets out. And so yeah, so I love to see that. I love to see when people get it, when that light bulb goes off and they say, "Oh wait, like I can change my life even from in here." So yeah, so I would say that's probably the most recent one.
How do you integrate lived experience into clinical practice?
Uh, it gives me a it gives me a lens that almost like a microscope. Like I understand in a different way, I think, maybe than most individuals working in a clinical correctional setting. I understand how it be told that you can change, be told that that they want to help you, and then still have to go back to a cell, right? And that can kind of take all of the impact out of what you're being told. Someone tells you, "Yeah, you can change. This is great. You're great. Everything's great. Now go back to your cell." And so, yeah, so I think that having that experience, having experienced that firsthand, helps me to kind of make sure that, as I mentioned before, that the individuals feel seen, not just that they're coming to an appointment, not that I'm just here to check a box and say that I met with you. I genuinely care about you and your experience, and I understand what it's like to have to make this journey.
Now, I need to ask you this question because as I listen, to the wonderful experience, well, I'm gonna
Mhm.
call it wonderful experience, but the way you have changed your life to
Mhm.
where you have like just totally, totally just elevated it to like a level that's unbeknownst to anything else. Now, when I listen to you, it's like you were like in this big old room, okay, and you
Mhm.
had all of these toys that you never had before, and you being so innovative, so eccentric, and so creative, were able to take the ones that you liked and you made, the things that were very, very pertinent to you and what you say what you were going to do. Tell us, what is it that gave you this mental toughness and the strength and the courage that you had to do all this?
Oh, I would say that there's two parts to that. One, I read this book called Grit by Angela Duckworth. And that book really taught me a lot about resiliency and perseverance. But I guess the other aspect was just my desire to give back, my desire, to make amends. I once I kind of recognized the impact that criminality and the justice system has on people, not even just as individuals, but generationally, right? I grew up without my father, and so I everyone that that sort of kind of really inspired me to think like, well, what can I do? How can I contribute to this solution rather than just becoming another statistic that's part of the problem? So I would say, yeah, those two things sort of influenced me and kept me motivated.
What's your advice to aspiring counselors with a justice impacted background?
I would say one, that it's definitely possible, and two, that your background can be your secret weapon. It can be the very thing that makes it so that you are able to empathize. You're able to explain things to them in a way that's relatable. A lot of the times when I'm running groups, um, I'll be able to say things in a way that they understand what I'm saying, that experience. We have that sort of shared experience. And not all of them know that I'm just impacted, but I'm able to explain things to them from that lens. And so I think that, yeah, I would say to counselors with that as a background, one, it is definitely possible. And two, it's more rewarding than you can imagine, to go from sitting in those chairs to now standing in front of the room with men and women that are sitting in those chairs.
How do you protect your own mental health while serving others?
Um, I definitely talk to my own counselor, my own therapist. Family support system also is a huge thing for me. I talk to my grandpa regularly, my mom, my sister, my aunts. So having people to be proud of me, but also being proud of myself. So anytime I start to feel any kind of maybe anxiety or depression if things aren't going right, I just kind of lean on that. But I also remind myself that I know how much I've overcome, and so that having having that perspective helps to keep me, you know, grounded and focused and get refocused.
Well, let's move over to your community engagement and policy. What's your role with ELDA and how does that work?
So I'm the director of development for ELDA. It stands for Every Life Deserves Assistance. We had a contract with CDCR, and we provide transitional housing and outpatient treatment. And so, aside from helping with providing the treatment, my role as director of development is to kind of just build community partnerships. So whether that's working with the parole agents, or the county behavioral health services, things like that, trying to bring in different donations and just create different opportunities to expand our reach within the reentry population.
What's your role with ELDA and how does it expand your mission?
So yeah, I think my role as director of development, it really gives me opportunity to meet a lot of different people, and by meeting so many different people, I'm able to kind of assess different needs and different opportunities. And so my mission to contribute to the reentry, the growth and the expansion of the reentry population success is kind of complemented by the work that I do at Elda. It's really giving me an opportunity to not only meet people who are in positions to help, but also to meet people who may need help.
Okay. You kind of like your thing, kind of like
Oh, it froze again.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
um, so, how do you build trauma informed workforce programs that actually stick?
I'd start by just kind of analyzing the market, the different markets where justice impacted individuals not only will be welcome, but will be appreciated. And so after I kind of identify what those markets are, I break down what's required to be successful in that workforce area, and build the program around that. And